We will be the first jurisdiction in the world to require all new cars to be sold to be alternative fuel cars. And here's why it's significant. Besides being a game changer in terms of our climate and our energy leadership, it's a game changer in another respect, that the car manufacturers themselves are celebrating and embracing it, including Toyota today, not just Ford and GM.
Okay, so let's talk about this electric car craze, or this manufacturer craze, where the government and other companies are trying to make it seem like everybody's jumping into EVs. EVs are the way to go. It's trending. We all need to get in an EV. But they've been having problems. I just did a video recently about these EVs, about how these battery costs are absolutely shocking. And we're running into more issues because now a lot of people in this harsh cold winter are dealing with problems with their EVs. These batteries are running out way sooner. Some of the charging stations, the Tesla's charging stations, aren't even working, and these people are just completely assed out, having to call roadside assistant, tow trucks and things like that. So we have several states across the union that are requiring EVs by 2030, 2035, 2040. These states are saying, we're not going to allow you to sell a traditional combustible engine type vehicle in the United States. You can only buy EVs. These people are insane. But let's look at what happened in the Chicago area as the Chicago winter impacted these Teslas and other EVs.
Surprised to hear the cold weather is also impacting electric vehicles. The popularity of the cars, paired with drivers depending on charging stations, created the perfect storm today, leaving many without their vehicles. NBC5's Charlie Wojciechowski reports.
Been out here for 3 hours.
For Rob Ross, the fancy Mach-E electric vehicle he's trying out has not been worth the trouble it's cost.
Got the tow truck to bring me here this morning. I was at 5 people in front of me. Sat here, my vehicle was like almost on empty, no charge. We got people sitting in line right now who actually, their charge, the EV is actually disabled because they can't even make it pull up to the machine.
And the charging stations at this Evergreen Park public charging port are full, so full that some EVs ran out of juice before they could get to the machines.
It's terrible. It's like I could be out there, be driving and everything in the cold, but instead I gotta wait. And it's a waiting game, it's a waiting game, it's a waiting game, and it's terrible.
Gary and Rob are learning a hard lesson about EVs in the extreme cold. They just don't go as far as they usually do.
Absolutely. In EVs that I've driven, I've seen anywhere from a 10% to a 30% drop, depending on how cold it is. And the colder it gets, the worse that drop is.
Patrick Olson tests EVs and other cars as the editor-in-chief at Carfax.com.
Even when I test them, week in and week out, I have to think ahead about how far am I going to go and how much do I want to risk it.
Making matters worse, EVs take longer to charge the colder it is outside.
You have to come up here, wait 2 hours to get on the charger. They tell you the chargers are fast. It takes 2 hours to charge your car.
So here in this Evergreen Park parking lot with temperatures in the single digits, there are dozens of EVs sitting in the cold waiting for a chance to be charged. Rob Ross is reconsidering the idea of owning one.
My conclusion is, as far as the drive and everything is real nice, but not Chicago. I couldn't do it.
In Evergreen Park.
So the bottom line, like I said before, the tech ain't there. So we got the government trying to force it. They are doing these requirements. Like I said, they have tax incentives for people who are going out and buying these Teslas and these other vehicles. They're giving subsidies to the companies, the manufacturers of these vehicles. So they're pouring in billions of dollars, billions of taxpayer dollars into trying to make EVs a thing and to trying to incentivize the majority of the population to go away from the traditional gas-powered vehicles. But clearly, the tech ain't there. These vehicles are not ready for mass use in the market. These batteries, they have limited range already, and that's not even counting cold weather, but you don't have enough adequate charger stations. If you get in a gas guzzler F350s with the 6 wheels on it, you can drive across the country without having to worry about range. You can drive across the country, I get 12 miles a gallon. It doesn't even matter, because every couple of miles or whatever, even out in the rural areas, you're going to find gas stations. They are readily available, and you get your big gas guzzling truck, you put the pump in there, Go in the store, a couple of minutes later, that thing is full and you about your business. So you can just keep going. But if you have an EV, you trying to drive from New York to Philly, you trying to drive from LA to Vegas, you got to think, like, damn, can this overpriced Tesla even make it there? Can this overpriced fancy electric vehicle, this Ford Lightning or whatever the hell you're in, can it even make it there? These people have to consider that because first of all, these charging stations aren't readily available. And then you might get caught in a traffic jam like you driving in the desert, you driving somewhere in Arizona, California. You have to use your AC, so that's going to drain the battery even more. Or as we just seen here in Chicago, cold weather. So you're driving in freezing temperatures or near freezing temperatures. You have to worry like, man, my range says it's 300 miles, but in this cold weather, I might be lucky to get 150. And then that's in a new car in good road conditions. So if this car is like 3 or 4 years old, you're supposed to be having 300 miles, you'll be lucky to get 100 miles. And then you go to a charging station, wherever it is, it might be super far away, but it could take you hours to even charge the car. You saw in the video, these guys out here waiting for hours in the cold, trying to charge their car. And like I mentioned before, these batteries are extremely expensive. We had some just regular, not even the luxurious Teslas and electric Porsches, just regular Hondas and stuff like that. Electric, these people are paying $15,000-$20,000, or they're not even paying it because they can afford it, but they're being charged $15,000-$20,000 to replace a battery on a car. So they end up just scrapping the car because the costs of this are insane. And finally, the reason why I say the tech isn't there is the grid can't handle it. So we got these idiots over here in California, Gavin Newsom, them talking about, oh, well, we love the environment, we worship the sun monster, and we're going to get rid of all non-electric vehicles by 2035. So if you have one already, it'll be grandfathered in. But in this giant state of California, no dealership will be able to sell a vehicle that's not electric. And we see California, they have these brownouts because their grid is trash, they're overcrowded, their grid is ancient and needs a drastic, very expensive update, which they're not even doing. They're actually going against it by closing nuclear plants and stuff like that. But these people are trying to force millions of people, tens of millions of people, into EVs. Their grid can't handle it. You can barely run your AC or even a toaster or a washing machine in the summertime in LA. Imagine if 80% of LA was in EVs. Blackout, full-blown blackout, because the grid can't handle it. And another problem with these EVs is, like I said, very costly, even to multi-million-dollar and billion-dollar corporations. So we're looking at Hertz now. Hertz, who promoted heavily their EVs, they were bragging about it. They had the Tom Brady commercial. In fact, let's look at this commercial.
Our new EV rental fleet is the absolute GOAT.
Nice. Speaking of goats, is that Tom Brady?
Yeah, he comes in to recharge, get software updates, you know.
Same time next week?
You got it.
Cool. Let's go.
So these guys promoted heavily their EVs, but now they're getting rid of their EVs. They said they're going to chop off over 20,000 of their EVs. I think that's a third of their inventory because, for one, most of their customers don't want it. As much as they try to make it seem fashionable, trendy, the Biden administration trying to force it on the population, people don't want it. When people go to rent a car, they have a choice. Oh, there's a Tesla right there. Nope, I don't want it. If I have to sit at a charging station for 3 or 4 hours, I ain't got time for that. Even a supercharging station, alleged supercharging station, I ain't got time for that. Give me a regular gas guzzling car that I don't have to worry about that crap. I know gas stations all over the place. So give me that. And then on top of that, Hertz is saying that the maintenance costs, even when they do rent these things out, the maintenance costs are way higher than gas powered cars. And the people who do rent them, they often have issues. So the government wants to force these things on the population, but there are some serious flaws. Like I said, we got problems with the grid. We got problems with the battery, the cost of the battery, the cost of maintenance. These charging stations are shutting down in cold weather. You're losing all types of range. People who have things to do, you don't have hours to be sitting in line and trying to charge a battery when you can just get a regular car and fuel that thing in 5 minutes and be about your business. So they're not ready for mass use. I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to push something new out. You got some new fancy tech, and some people are saying, well, this is good for the environment, even though I argue with that, because even when you have an EV and you plug it into a charging station, where's the electricity coming from? 9 times out of 10, it's coming from gas, natural gas, or coal. So you're not even solving the environmental issues. And especially when we look worldwide, because we all have one planet, you're not doing anything about what's going on in India and China. And they're the biggest polluters in the world with their massive populations. So you're trying to force this new technology. I get it, but it's not ready. The tech ain't there. And I don't see how people want to get a vehicle, pay all this money for a vehicle just to deal with all types of problems that they wouldn't have dealt with if they would have just got a gas car. So keep working on the technology. Maybe you can make it better. Maybe you can make these charging stations more readily available. Extremely expensive. So it's going to cost taxpayers money. Maybe these batteries won't cost an arm and a leg. Keep working on it. But let the market determine these things. Let the market phase out gas cars if that happens. Don't try to force them on a population, especially when these things aren't completely reliable, especially when we have years and years of work to do on this whole EV thing. So again, most people want something that's not expensive and that's reliable. Let me know what you guys think about this. Leave a like, share the video. Thanks for watching.